Hi friends. Um, Today I wanted to make a video on creativity and creative consciousness and sort of the lies that we get told about creativity. I feel like I myself am kind of going through this phase right now as of like 2 days ago when Pluto went into Aquarius because I have an Aquarius stellium in the fifth house. So I've been thinking a lot about creativity and I think that maybe you'll relate if you're listening to this. I think that creativity is something that we're very, very, very programmed against, and we learn very early in life to become really disconnected from our creativity. So when you think of what is creativity, I think a lot of times we're sold this idea that's very in line with consumerism, which is that creativity is our ability to create an object or a thing that is perfect for consumption, that other people will really love, will really appreciate, and can give you validation for. So when I think of creativity, I often think of making the perfect art piece, making the perfect, like creating the most perfect music or choreography or whatever it is, you kind of think of creativity in very linear ways and very almost objectified ways. And I think that that's a really, really big issue, as you can imagine, when it comes to your own relationship to your own essence, because creativity really is the essence of life. I think it's the most core essence to life itself, because creativity is the consciousness of being able to take an idea or an insight or something, um, from the 5D or from the spirit world or realm and actually birth it into the physical. And so it doesn't have to be, creativity doesn't have to just be a physical thing that you're creating, right? It could be a human. Like creativity is giving birth to a human being, giving birth to a new consciousness in this world. Creativity can also be the way that you connect with other people, because when you connect with other people, you almost create like a third consciousness through that relationship when you are connecting with people, right? It's like your consciousness is connecting with someone else's consciousness, or merging, I should say. And in that experience of merging, you create an even bigger sort of energy field around that relationship. So even relationships and connections are super, super creative. The process of being vulnerable and the process of understanding somebody else's light and gifts, but also the things that make them tick and their emotional nuances and understanding their behavior and patterns. That's all very creative. Obviously, self-expression is very creative too, right? The way in which you do things, even just very basic things that we don't really think about, like your gestures, your mannerisms, the way you hold yourself, the way that you walk, like these are all very creative things. And because we've objectified and commodified our creativity, we lose touch of that, and we start to think that creativity is just this one track, this one singular track. And if I'm not following that track, then I'm failing. And that's how you actually fail at creativity, but that's also how you serve the greater system that we have. Because if we are disconnected from our creativity, then we're not thinking outside of the box. And if we're not thinking outside of the box, then we are really good robots, right? We're the perfect things or objects to become indoctrinated. So I was really just reflecting on a lot of that today and yesterday about how I myself have been thinking of my creativity in a very just objectified way. And I think so much of my creativity as like I need to create a product that other people can consume. And I saw something on TikTok from a creator, and she said, she's like, instead of thinking of your creativity as this like one object that has to have this very huge expansive effect on people, think of it as a mosaic of your life, right? And when you think of it that way, that it's just like one shard of glass in the giant mosaic, then it's like, then it just becomes fun. It just becomes something that you're birthing through your consciousness. And I think another thing that really helps to remember is that, in psychological terms, like Jungian psychology, the whole creative process is really fascinating. The creative process is thought to be this inspiration or this sort of awakening, seedling, shift in consciousness, whatever you want to call it, through the collective. And that idea or that seed kind of channels through your vessel particularly, and you express that desire, that inspiration, that, just proclivity towards whatever it is that you're wanting to do. You express that through your vessel, and you expressing that through your vessel is then creating a ripple effect in the collective unconscious, right? So, because we are all connected to each other through consciousness, if I feel the need to express something, it's because I'm connected to somebody on the other side of it who is needing to experience that. And that's what creativity is, right? It's the ability to birth something. But also, this world is a world of duality. And if you're feeling the need to birth something, it's because there's something else that needs to receive the birthing of whatever it is that you're creating in the world. And I was thinking so much about that today, and I was just having all these different shifts because I was starting to realize that I want to treat my life as if my life is walking art and as if everything that I do is creative, and that really requires you to release the perfectionism and the need for people to want to consume things. Even these videos that I make, I never really had a full intention that I wanted to, meet a certain end goal with these videos. It was more so for myself and to practice speaking because I really wanted to become a better speaker, but it was also just because I wanted to express myself. And I found myself though, like some of my videos got, it incited conversation, and then I found my own mind starting to get triggered a little bit, and it's like, then it's like, oh, like what will people want to see? I hope that the people who connected to the last video connect to this video, and it's like I don't know why my mind just immediately goes into that, and I can't just create for the sake of creating. And I think a lot of us struggle with that. I don't think that that's just me. So many of us struggle with that because it's just the nature of the society that we live in. But I think the more that you see your creativity as something beyond just yourself, beyond just a product that you can create, beyond just one stream of consciousness, and you allow yourself to experience creativity as multiple streams of consciousness happening at one time, which can feel very confusing to the creative person, like to the artist or to the creative person. I feel like I've related to this my whole life, which is that I've never felt like I wanted to do one thing forever. I always feel so scatterbrained. And that's part of my struggle too, is because I feel I don't see myself sometimes as a creative person because I don't feel as though I want to stick to one thing and become really good at it. And I also just don't think I was born that way. I think some people are born having like this, amazing gift to be able to sing, and they can really feed into that and turn it into this very beautiful like project in life. I don't ever feel like I was ever given one specific thing that I was super, super good at. I feel like I've always had a bunch of different interests. Like I did dance for over a decade and I wasn't good at it, but I just did it because I thought it was really fun and I love dancing. Then I did art classes for like 6 years. And again, I was never really good at any art medium, but I just did it because I loved it. I love learning. I also think learning is very creative. Again, I think that's another facet of how we can think creativity is very limited to just creating physical things. I think learning is creative too, right? Being able to expand your way of thinking beyond the box, being able to learn how to think in ways that challenges old forms of thinking. Those are all creative things. Really like downloading information and then learning how to apply that to your life and changing your behaviors. That's creative, right? Creativity is change, it's fluidity. And so even healing and spirituality, that's all creative because you're adapting yourself, you're changing yourself, you are allowing yourself to flow with where you are being guided to go. um but yeah, I just like have been thinking about all these different things, and I was going to say something. I had a good point in my head, but I don't remember anymore. Oh, I was saying how I've always felt in my life that I was pulled in a million directions, and I never felt like I was really good at one thing, and that always made me think that I was not a creative person because I don't have this one thing that I can definitively say, I'm really, really good at this, right? I've always felt pulled in a million directions, and I'm trying to challenge myself to stop thinking that I have to be like this one track genius mastermind in order to be a creative person. I think that actually the nature of creativity is being multifaceted, is being able to be pulled in multiple directions at one time, because that means that you are accessing multiple streams of consciousness. It means that your mind, your body, your soul are able to operate at different levels all at one time. And so I think that being pulled in 1,000 different directions at one time is actually proof of your creativity. And if you feel like you do one thing and then you quickly lose interest and you want to do the next thing, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that we're just told that that's not what being creative is. And so then we try to force ourselves into a box. We try to force ourselves into one distinct path to follow in life. And that way of thinking is actually designed to keep us stuck and to keep us feeling comfortable and conforming to one track, right? Instead of exploring the edges of our own consciousness. So, yeah, I realized that I think the biggest thing for me is just like, I don't want to have labels on my creativity. I don't want to have labels onto what it means to create. I don't want to feel like creating means that I have to focus my mind so much on this one project and it has to be perfect and it has to gain all this attention and validation because that's just consumerism. That's just consumerism. And consumerism never really gets us feeling connected to ourselves. It just makes us feel like an object. And I think that's also part of why we have as human beings such this sensor for authenticity. Like we can sense when people are creating and they're creating for the purpose of it to be sold, to be a product. And you can also sense when people are creating just from the pureness of their heart with no intention of perfection. And that's usually the thing that we feel the most attracted to, right? And I think that that's also why a lot of times um, people will put out art and we'll feel so attracted to it, but they'll keep putting out like that same type of art over and over again. And then we almost become repelled to it because it starts to feel as if there's this side of perfection and striving and perfectionism behind it. And that's, as human beings, like we're made to be creators. And so we're not really, I think that as much as we try to stop ourselves from this, as much as we try to force ourselves into perfection, there's still a massive part of us that's like a perfectionistic or perfectionism detector. There's like this massive part of us that can detect when people are performing just for the sake of perfectionism, just for the sake of validation, because as human beings, it's not natural to who we really are. So, yeah, that was my little rant today on creativity. I guess I would encourage anybody who might be listening to this to maybe question and think about the ways that you've been thinking of your own creativity and realizing that consciousness is way bigger than just being able to produce a really beautiful painting, right? Like your creative consciousness is really just pure consciousness in and of itself. It's your ability to tap into the collective unconscious and the needs of the collective unconscious and recognizing that your body is the vessel through which you pull those needs of the collective unconscious into the physical, and you feel these desires and these attractions towards certain things, to create certain things, to participate in certain things, because there are people who need to see you doing that, even if you don't get that validation outwardly, right? Like you standing in your power, you expressing what it is that you need to express, you feeling your emotions. Somebody is watching that and thinking, that, the way that you're doing it actually ends up changing the way that they continue to live their lives, or it plants a seed inside of them energetically, right? And then that seed kind of blossoms over time. And maybe sometimes that person is just you. Sometimes you just need to see yourself doing something, and that's also part of the creative process. But I would encourage everybody who's listening, especially because Pluto has gone direct in Aquarius for the first time since 17 something, since the French Revolution, I believe it was. Um, so Aquarius is very creative. I'm an Aquarius. Aquarius is very creative. It's very, rejecting of social norms, very living outside of the boxes. And I would encourage you all to use that as your power, I guess. Using that as your power. I'm still trying to kind of like navigate what that looks like. But I think step number one is accepting multidimensionality, accepting being multi-passionate, accepting being multi-hyphenate. You don't have to be a master at one thing. Like you are allowed to be a jack of all trades, as they say. You are allowed to jump from one thing to the next. You are allowed to jump from one thing, not be perfect at it, and then move to the next thing and not be good at that, and move to the next thing and not be good at that. And recognizing that the dance of all of it is the art form, right? Like the experience of all of it, the ability to allow yourself to mutate through different mediums and different spaces, that's part of the creative process, right? I think that also if you're somebody who might feel like you don't belong to one certain career path or one certain life path in general, you feel like you just kind of bop between like all these different ideas and identities, because I relate to that. I feel like I never saw myself as one type of person. I like in my head I'm always imagining myself doing all of these different roles, but I think that that's the beauty of not belonging to one certain thing, is that you have the gift of, if you don't belong to one certain thing, it pushes you to constantly experience different things and different um sectors of life, and that's the beauty of it, is that you get to mold yourself into different places and take on different roles and take on different masks. And I think that that's ultimately the beauty of it all. I think the beauty of it all is not actually in the product that you're producing for the world to see, but rather like the presence that you have when you are actually engaging in it, and the emotions that it brings up, the insight that channels through your body. And ironically, I think that when you let go of the end goal and of the product, that insight that naturally flows through your vessel ends up forming a product on its own. Um, Madonna recently did an interview with Jay Shetty, and something that has been replaying in my mind was that she said that her teacher told her that she is the manager of her creative gift, not the owner of it. And it's just stuck with me. I think that's a really key point to drive home, is that your creative essence, your creative consciousness is not about you trying to control it, trying to force it in a certain direction. You're just there to manage it. You're just there to simply allow it to flow through your vessel, give it guidance, listen to it, be the one who is the objective listener, the one who, is essentially kind of like the follower of the higher consciousness that's inside of you, and almost as if you are bowing down to the creative consciousness inside of yourself. But yeah, that's my rant for today. I would love if anybody wants to share their insights into their own journey in life, creativity with their creativity, building a relationship with creativity, and just spiritually, maybe how you relate to creativity, because I would love to hear it. I feel like I'm going through this massive shift when it comes to creativity, so I would love to hear other people's opinions and shifts that they've had. Maybe it'll help facilitate my own growth in that aspect of life. But yeah, that's all. I guess I'll see you all on the next video. Bye.